I'm Shannon Martin. Tonight, what was planned as a protest turned into celebration this weekend after Premier Doug Ford reversed his decision to open up the Greenbelt.
Just saying I broke my promise and that's it does not really cut it.
Why these community members are pledging to still keep the pressure on the provincial government. Plus,
we want them to reconsider this terrible plan.
The province faces more heat for its plan to redevelop Ontario Place. People rallied to save hundreds of trees and a historic Japanese-Canadian landmark about to be relocated.
It's a beautiful love letter to the city.
Nuit Blanche transforms Toronto for an all-night art party. From street corners to the most unexpected places, we'll preview the must-see installations.
This is CBC Saturday News.
Thanks for joining us. Nice to be back with you on a Saturday night. Well, celebration, relief, and a pledge to keep the pressure on. 2 days after the Premier said opening up the Greenbelt for development was a mistake, communities still got together today to rally and send a message to the province. Greg Ross kicks off our coverage tonight.
I mean, it does call for a celebration, right? Yeah.
In Scarborough, what was supposed to be a protest against Doug Ford's plan to build on the Greenbelt turned into a celebration.
It does call for a celebration to see a majority government reverse its decision, a really, really terrible decision. And it goes to show the strength of our communities, the people.
Scarborough Southwest MPP Dolly Begum believes gatherings like this one played a big role in the Premier's decision to do this.
I made a promise to you that I wouldn't touch the Greenbelt. I broke that promise. And for that, I'm very, very sorry.
I don't think that the Premier would have come forward and made that apology and said that he will reverse his decision if it wasn't for the people, if it wasn't for the opposition, if it wasn't for the First Nation communities, if it wasn't for local individuals and environmental activists.
Greenbelt belongs to Ontarians.
People came out today despite his decision to send a message to Doug Ford that they won't forget.
He's changed his mind many times. I don't know how trustworthy he is. And as a grandmother, I want to make sure there's something left for her.
Another rally here in Richmond Hill seemed much more like a protest, with people here saying that they've pivoted to other pressing issues.
Now that the Greenbelt decision has been reversed, we feel that we want to keep the momentum going about several other decisions.
At the top of that list, Highway 413, which is proposed to run through York, Peel and Halton regions.
413 cuts right through the Greenbelt, right down the middle.
And people here believe that would only be incentive for Doug Ford to once again try to build on the Greenbelt.
By building this highway, the housing can be adjacent to it.
They say more protests like this one can be expected in the future as they try to keep up the pressure in hopes Ford will rethink some of his other decisions. Greg Ross, CBC News, Richmond Hill.
Turning to another rally next, this one over the province's plan to redevelop Ontario Place. As Tyler Cheese shows us, after seeing the government reverse course on the Greenbelt, many are hoping to see the same outcome for Ontario Place.
A large group gathered to have their voices heard at Ontario Place today. We are here today to stand up for these trees and tell the Ontario government very clearly that you do not tear down 50-year-old trees in the middle of a climate emergency. And we want them to reconsider this terrible plan. That plan includes removing more than 800 mature trees to prepare for the province's redevelopment plans, which also includes the controversial Therma Mega Spa. But the development plan is still under review by the city. They're not respecting the city process. They agreed to be part of this city process, but now when it's not convenient for them, they're just moving ahead with demolition.
We are still in the middle of getting a report about their new submission, so I hope nothing gets done until the city say yes or no.
What we have been fighting for is an Ontario Place that is green.
Other speakers at today's rally included Deputy Mayor Usma Malik, local MPP Chris Glover, and Adrian Huff, the son of Michael Huff, the landscape architect who designed Ontario Place.
My dad always thought that it was really important to keep public places public and to make sure that nature was a part of cities. And he revolutionized landscape architecture and city design.
Earlier this month, the province confirmed it's planning to start cutting down trees this fall, saying every tree removed will eventually be replaced with twice as many trees native to the area. But advocates are also concerned about the Japanese-Canadian Centennial Temple Bell, a monument created to celebrate 100 years of Japanese settlement in Canada. The bell is set to be dismantled on Monday.
The Temple Bell was like a gift of reconciliation and relationship, if you will.
The province says it's working with the National Association of Japanese Canadians to relocate the bell to another site at Ontario Place, but their first choice would be not to move the bell at all.
You know, with the Temple Bell in its original site and the little pond beside it and a little bridge, Japanese bridge, that could have been, you know, a tourist attraction of another kind.
Today's rally was partly motivated by Doug Ford's recent decision to reverse development of the Greenbelt. Attendees are hoping to pressure him to do the same for Ontario Place. Tyler Cheese, CBC News, Toronto.
If you were out shopping earlier today, you may have experienced this. A technical hitch knocked out the country's largest payment processor. Moneris says the intermittent network outage lasted almost 90 minutes before transactions began to gradually return to normal. Social media lit up with reports of problems at customer payment terminals. Affected areas included Toronto, Winnipeg, BC, and Nova Scotia. One of the top stories this week, the worsening relations between Canada and India. Prime Minister Justin Trudeau made that bombshell allegation accusing the Indian government of being involved in the deadly shooting of a Canadian citizen on Canadian soil. Ithil Musa brings us the latest, including the impact on anyone wanting visas.
In the village of Barsinghpura in India's Punjab region, a confiscation notice has been posted on the alleged property of Hardeep Singh Nijjar by India's specialized counter-terrorism law enforcement agency. India considered Nijjar a terrorist. He openly advocated for a Sikh homeland in India's Punjab region. Nijjar was shot to death outside a Sikh temple in Surrey, BC in June, and Prime Minister Justin Trudeau is accusing India's government of involvement in the fatal shooting. We think it was very brave of Trudeau, says Nijjar's uncle. For the sake of one ordinary person, he did not need to take such a huge risk on his government. Our Indian government would never do that, no matter what. Growing tensions between Canada and India has resulted in the expulsion of diplomats on both sides, and it spurred India to stop processing visitor visas in Canada. One expert says India's reaction is to be expected.
It likes to be projected as very strong, confident, nationalistic. So there was no way that India was just going to sit on its hands after these explosive allegations were made.
Canada's biggest ally says it's continuing to keep a close eye on the situation.
We are deeply concerned about the allegations that Prime Minister Trudeau has raised.
While Antony Blinken didn't directly address the allegations against India, he is urging the country to cooperate with Canada in a push for accountability.
From our perspective, it is critical that the Canadian investigation proceed, and it would be important that India work with the Canadians on this investigation. We want to see accountability, and it's important that the investigation run its course.
The Canadian government has not released its evidence concerning Nijjar's murder, but has suggested it could emerge during an eventual legal process. Ithil Musa, CBC News, Toronto.
A message of appreciation to Canadians coming from Ukraine's president, who briefly touched down in Toronto and Ottawa yesterday. Volodymyr Zelenskyy posted on social media saying it was moving to hear people of Toronto singing the Ukrainian national anthem.
Slava Ukraini!
That was the moment he was referring to at a rally of Ukrainian Canadians yesterday in Toronto. Now, earlier on Friday, Zelenskyy addressed Parliament, where Prime Minister Justin Trudeau pledged $650 million over the next 3 years to build armored vehicles for Ukraine. Well, just as Zelenskyy was working to shore up support among allies, a defiant Russian foreign minister has shot down Ukraine's proposed peace plan at the United Nations. Chris Reyes takes us there.
Addressing the UN General Assembly, Russian Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov cast Russia as the champion of peace and equality, not the West, a counter-narrative to the views of the vast majority of the UN's 193 member states.
Our future is being shaped by a struggle between the global majority in favor of a fairer distribution of global benefits and civilized diversity, and between the few who wield neocolonial methods of subjugation in order to maintain their domination.
Just in the last 24 hours, the Russian army attacked multiple military targets in Ukraine, while Ukraine struck Russia's Black Sea Fleet headquarters in Crimea. In his speech, Lavrov made no mention of the state of the war, nor addressed its violation of the UN Charter. Instead, he fired off one attack after another against Western powers.
The collective West has a calling card, and it has long been to reject the principle of equality and their total inability to reach agreement.
Earlier this week, Russia and Ukraine faced off at the Security Council, but Lavrov and Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelenskyy were never in the same room at the same time. On why he didn't attend the meeting during Zelenskyy's speech, Lavrov said this.
But I have my own affairs to attend to. We all know what he's going to say, so why waste time? I had 33 bilaterals planned, and they were much more useful.
Zelenskyy spent much of his time at the UN this week promoting Ukraine's peace plan, an extensive list that would require the international community to guarantee Ukraine's security and restore its borders. Lavrov called that plan unrealistic and one that would not bring Russia to the negotiating table. Chris Reyes, CBC News, New York.
Still with the UN, advocacy groups have sent a controversial proposal from Barrie City Hall all the way to the United Nations. You may remember this summer, Barrie put forward a bylaw amendment to ban giving food or money to homeless people. After pushback from the community, City Hall has paused the plan and put it under review. Now advocates have sent it to the UN so it can be part of an upcoming report on criminalizing poverty.
Barrie's proposed bylaws in particular stand out as an egregious example of the recriminalization of people who use drugs and are living in public spaces and experiencing homelessness. We're very concerned about the direction that the city is taking, and so we thought it was important to raise alongside a number of other bylaws across the country for consideration and context for the United Nations analysis.
A spokesperson for the city says the bylaw review should be done by later this year. Canadian auto workers are casting ballots this weekend on a new contract. The union reached a tentative agreement this week with Ford, potentially averting a strike. As Albert Delatella shows us, now union members are deciding if they agree to the terms of the deal.
Voting gets underway today, and we're learning more about what members are voting on. The union Unifor says a tentative deal with Ford reached late Tuesday includes wage increases of 15% over 3 years, along with pension improvements and a signing bonus of $10,000. Whether it gets ratified should be clear by the end of the weekend. The agreement avoided a walkout at the company's Canadian operations, which would have seen around 5,600 workers hit the picket lines. The result of the vote is being watched closely. It's considered a possible template for negotiations with the Canadian operations of other North American automakers, General Motors and Stellantis. The outcome of the vote is expected sometime tomorrow. Meanwhile, south of the border, the ongoing job action there by the United Auto Workers expanded yesterday against 2 of the 3 major U.S. automakers to 38 parts distribution plants. You're looking at the picket line in Milwaukee. The Wisconsin plant is just one of the plants affected across 20 states. All are owned by General Motors and Stellantis. It's worth noting that there was no expansion in the strike against Ford. The union president says real progress has been made with that company, but the strike has expanded. It now involves nearly 19,000 workers, up from 13,000.
Thanks, Albert. Sophie is joining us now with our first look at the forecast on the first day of fall. It was beautiful out there today.
Yeah, it certainly doesn't feel like fall out there, but bring on the season of pumpkin spice lattes, sweater weather, pumpkins, and apple picking. Shannon, it's going to feel more like summer for the next few days, though. There's your spoiler alert. Now, coming up in the long range, we'll talk more about the equinox, what it means, and how dry it will be. But let's talk a little bit about the temperatures. Low 20s have been the story this past week. It will be the story, really, for the next few days. Gorgeous, glorious Sunday ahead, including a Monday and Tuesday. Let's talk about how dry it's been for a second. We are on a big stretch with no rain, and it will continue really, except for those of you in southwestern Ontario that will have a few showers Monday into Tuesday. This is a week ahead that will be dry without any extreme or active weather and without any extreme cool downs or warm ups. It's because of this big ridge of high pressure that goes all the way the north end of Hudson's Bay down to the Great Lakes Basin. While we have rain and active weather in the west coast and storms moving up the east coast, we are protected for what will be a really tranquil, sunny, and calm week. Low 20s. The only thing to mention really is a little bit more windy than it was last week. Winds about 20 to 40 kilometers an hour. A little cooler around the lake shores. We'll talk in the long range, though, about how dry it's going to be and what that could mean going forward. Shannon?
Sounds pretty perfect. Okay, thanks, Sophia. We will take it. Commuters in the east end of the GTA may have spent some extra time getting around today. That's because GO train service between Union and Oshawa is suspended throughout the weekend. Track work is underway near Durham College Oshawa GO station. Now, Metrolinx says the work is needed to accommodate the East Harbour Transit Hub. Shuttle buses are running instead. Metrolinx says riders can expect longer than normal commute times. Now, GO train service is also paused on the Stouffville line between Kennedy GO and Union this weekend. Regular service on both lines is expected to be back on Monday. Once the quickest way in and out of Scarborough, the SRT opened its doors one last time for riders to say farewell to the transit line after 38 years in service.
Remember this being built way back when, and it's really sad that it's going to be discontinued.
I remember it just being loud all the time, so you can't talk when it's moving, but when it stops, you can continue your conversation.
Actually, the RT is the backbone of the community. We literally can get from point A to point B. If we're going to adapt, we always adapt. We're a community of resilience, and, we'll keep pushing on.
Riders stepped on board the bright blue train for one final time. A pair of newlyweds there even taking the chance to snap their wedding photos inside the car. Now, the Scarborough RT was set to be decommissioned in November, but that was sped up after a car derailment in July. Now, today's goodbye party was also a trip down memory lane for many who for decades had to use the rail line for their daily commute. The City of Toronto is unveiling a new fitness program for anyone looking to get active.
A Fitness TO membership allows residents to access fitness services in a more affordable way. It ensures that youth and older adults, both priority populations for the health of our city, continue to have access to these important programs and services.
You heard it there. It's called Fitness TO. The program gives members access to city-run fitness and community rec centers. That includes weight rooms, lane swims, and group fitness classes at more than 65 locations right across the city.
So you're going to see the City of Toronto as you've never seen it before.
In less than an hour, Nuit Blanche takes over Toronto with more than 80 art exhibitions on display. We'll have a full rundown next. In about 30 minutes or so, Toronto will transform into a citywide art gallery. Nuit Blanche is back with art installations popping up across the GTA. Now, there's Nathan Phillips Square, one of the sites about to be activated. The theme this year is called Breaking Ground, exploring ideas about the natural world, change, and innovation. Talia Ricci spoke with an organizer about what art lovers can expect tonight.
It's our 17th annual Nuit Blanche, so we've been doing this for a while. So things have changed pretty dramatically. For this year, we have about 250 participating artists. We have 80 installations. And exhibition-wise, we have Downtown being curated by Kari Swiner. We have our Etobicoke exhibition for the second year, so that's curated by Lillian O'Brien-Davis, and we are back again in Scarborough with Noah Bronstein, who's curating that exhibition. And we also have all of our amazing major institutional partners all across the city activating a bunch of different neighborhoods.
And so if someone hasn't been to Nuit Blanche before and they want to come out, like, how would you describe this experience to them?
It is transformative. So you're going to see the city of Toronto as you've never seen it before. It's all night, so it's 7 p.m. to 7 a.m. It is a beautiful love letter to the city. It's all free. It's contemporary art transforming Toronto. It's artists and people coming to the streets. It's a really, really special event. I cannot recommend it enough.
In very much denial that we're even into fall, a summer lover here. But that shot you showed there kind of looks like my ideal postcard behind me, just gorgeous. The peak of the leaves is going to be wonderful this year. Autumnal equinox, say that 5 times fast. It's a tough mouthful to have, but exactly what it means, what you just said there, Shannon. Twice a year, the Earth's axis is tilted neither away or towards the sun. It's the shoulder seasons, that spring and that fall time when we have the equal amount of daylight and darkness and all those latitudes, and it's going to feel a lot more like summer right now. We talked about that big ridge of high pressure that will be keeping this a just gorgeous first week of fall to enjoy all things fall colors and pumpkins and apple picking. What a great week for that. We'll have active weather on all the coasts, but we are protected in this ridge of stability, really like we have been for the entirety of this month. Everything you see behind me in yellow were the above seasonal days that we had in September, including that big stretch of extreme heat for that week of back to school. Looks like more to come. Also been very dry. We are on a stretch of 11 days and counting without rain. The all-time record was in 1938 at 26 days. We still have a while to go before that. But how much have we had so far this month? Only 9.7 millimeters of rain. Normally we see about 67 millimeters of rain in September. Last year we saw close to 40. So if you think that the grass is looking pretty parched for the first time this year, you are right. It'll be 20 for tomorrow around the GTA, a little cooler around the lakeshores this upcoming work week with an east wind, but still pleasant. You're a degree or two above seasonal. And really the only rain to talk about this upcoming work week will be some showers and some light rain coming into southwestern Ontario Monday night into Tuesday morning. But until then, enjoy the low 20s, not only Tuesday, but Wednesday, Thursday, and into Friday, which will be the full moon, the harvest moon, the full moon that is called the harvest moon, which is the closest to the autumnal equinox. There you go, a tongue twister for you all. Enjoy a beautiful week, a little bit more breezier than last week, though. Winds gusting about 20 to 40 kilometers an hour for all that fun sweater weather and pumpkin spice action, Shannon.
Well, here's a quick question. How soon is too soon for Halloween decorations?
Oh, I'm there. I am there.
Right, we gotta have fun, right?
Bring out the skeletons for all the little ghouls and goblins right away.
Too much fun. Thanks so much, Sophia.
And
we'll
then
see
we
you
talk about Christmas.
That's true. It's all coming. We're on our way. Okay, that's our show for you tonight. Thanks for watching. We're back with you tomorrow night at 11. We'll see you then.